Oil is found all throughout the world. However, the most concentrated amount of oil is found in the Middle East. This map shows the area of the Middle East that contains the most amount of oil.
Saudi Arabia has the world's largest oil reserves, followed by Venezuela and then Canada. However, the United States failed to make the top 10 and is placed 13 on the list.
Let's begin in the Middle East, which has about 2/3 of the world's proven oil reserves. Saudi Arabia is at the top with 266 billion barrels. Iraq and Iran are also rich in crude, along with Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates. But it might surprise you that Canada has a lot of oil too, some 178 billion barrels. Much of it rests in the tar sands of Alberta. It is a gigantic strip mining operation. Environmentalists call it a disaster, leaving behind toxic chemicals, stripping forests, and contaminating the water supply. Now, let's go south to Venezuela and parts of Mexico. Much of their oil, like Canada's, feeds the voracious appetite for crude in the United States, which is the world's biggest consumer of oil. Yet, did you know that the U.S. has some 21 billion barrels in reserve? So why doesn't it produce more? Well, the U.S. government bans most offshore drilling except in the Gulf of Mexico for environmental reasons. So where does Russia fit in all of this? It's flush with cash from its oil reserves, and it is the world's second largest producer. And let's take a look at Africa now. Libya has the most oil reserves on the continent, about 39 billion barrels. And further south, Nigeria has lots of crude, but lots of problems too. Militants routinely attack oil installations and kidnap workers, disrupting production and making global prices soar. All that said, who is going to quench the global thirst for oil in the future? Well, it could be that Brazil becomes the newest major exporter with the discovery of a huge offshore oil field. The oil is at a great depth, some 4 miles below the ocean surface, but experts say it is recoverable. And that may be the future for oil, going to great extremes to get it out off the ground. Analysts estimate there's another 1 trillion barrels of oil yet to be discovered, but they say it will be found in remote places like the Arctic Ocean. So it's going to cost a lot of money to get it from the ground into your fuel tank.
OPEC is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. It is an oil organization whose mission is to coordinate the policies of the oil-producing countries. The goal is to secure a steady income to the member states and to secure supply of oil to the consumers.
OPEC has 12 member countries, 6 in the Middle East, 4 in Africa, and 2 in South America. These countries include Algeria, Angola, Ecuador, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. Their official headquarters is in Vienna, Austria.
There's been many discoveries of oil in the United States, although the greatest concentration of oil is found in Texas, Alaska, and the Gulf of Mexico. Recent discoveries have shown that there has been oil in more remote places throughout the United States. The North Dakota oil boom is an ongoing period of extraction of oil from the Bakken Formation in the state of North Dakota that started in late 2008. In the backdrop of the 2008-2012 global financial crisis, the oil boom has resulted in enough oil and gas jobs to give North Dakota the lowest unemployment rate in the United States. The resulting sudden boom has reduced unemployment to 3.5% and given the state of North Dakota a $1 billion budget surplus.
Oil can be used for many different things, including transportation fuels, asphalt, military and defense, fertilizer, heating, feedstock, petrochemicals, plastics, solvents, and electrical generation.
According to the Energy Information Administration, transportation accounts for about 2/3 of the oil we use in the United States. Gasoline for cars, SUVs, and light trucks accounts for roughly 45% of the oil we use.
Oil has always been an object of conflict throughout the world. Countries have been willing to go to war to protect their oil and to find more. In the Middle East, the United States has nearly 50 military bases.
The U.S. Department of Defense is the largest oil-consuming government body in the United States and in the world. The Department of Defense uses 360,000 barrels of oil each day. This amount makes the Department of Defense the single largest oil consumer in the world. There are only 35 countries in the world consuming more oil than the Department of Defense. The U.S. Air Force is the largest oil consumer with the Department of Defense services.
With the rise in global demand, gas prices have been on the rise for years. Nowadays, it isn't uncommon to see gas prices in the $4 or even $5.
Oil prices may change due to many factors such as OPEC production decisions, inventories, global economic growth, exchange rates, and inflation.
After this, a slow-motion environmental disaster as an oil spill of hundreds of square miles makes its way towards the US shoreline in the Gulf of Mexico. Environmentalists worry that the coastal areas of 4 states could be affected, with the impact on fragile ecosystems immense. The American authorities are working round the clock to contain the spill. On the surface, skimmer ships try to corral and collect the oil, preventing it from spreading further. While nearly a mile beneath the surface, remote-operated submersibles try to find an emergency valve, which will close off the underwater well. This all started after a catastrophic explosion on a drilling platform on April the 20th, a blast which killed 11 workers. The unplugged well is currently leaking 42,000 gallons of oil a day, and US Coast Guards are warning that much of that slick could wash up ashore by the weekend.
It has been 3 years since the BP oil rig exploded, killing 11 workers and leaving oil gushing into the Gulf of Mexico in 2010. From April 20th until July 15th, 200 million gallons of crude oil spilled, affecting hundreds of miles of coastline and killing thousands of animals.
The Gulf oil spill was the worst of its kind in U.S. history. Although the spill wreaked havoc on the surrounding communities, tar has been removed from beaches and things have returned to normal in many places.
The Simple Show explains the carbon footprint. This is you. You've probably been hearing a lot about climate change and how you should reduce your carbon footprint. But what is that exactly? Just like an actual footprint, it's a mark you leave upon the environment. No, not with your shoes, but with every action that releases carbons. Those are the harmful gases, such as CO2, which are pumped out by burning fossil fuels like oil or gas. The more fuel you use, the bigger your footprint will be. You may think that by driving your car, the only carbons you release come from the engine, but no. Consider the carbons that are emitted just to get fuel into the tank. From the energy needed to extract the oil from underground, the pollution caused by transportation and refinement, to the final delivery to your local petrol station. Not to mention the CO2 released by manufacturing your car in the first place. More than you thought, huh? So unless you live in a cave, you and everything you own has its own carbon footprint. Read a book? Printing and distributing. It uses energy. Brush your teeth, and your utensils will have a history in a factory. Even something as basic as an apple could have traveled hundreds or even thousands of polluting miles to end up in your local supermarket. You see, it's pretty much impossible to leave no carbon footprint behind, but that's no reason to stop trying. Think about your actions and choices, and you'll be able to reduce your personal mark after all. That's how you really put the boot into climate change.
Fracking for oil is one of the leading contributors to the carbon footprint. When fracking for oil, you can contaminate both the water and the air of the surrounding areas. The piping that goes to the oil beneath the surface goes straight through the supply of water for the surrounding communities, contaminating it and causing bad drinking water. In addition, when you transport and use the oil, you can contaminate the air by the emissions that are let out.
Oil has become part of our culture, but with lack of renewability, the future for the fossil fuel is unknown.